everyone. So, mid-month wrap-up. I'm going to discuss the books that I read. A lot of them were 3 stars. So, yeah. So the first one is, I ended up going back to this book because I DNF'd it at first because I wasn't feeling it. So I ended up reading Elsie Silver, This is Flawless. So we have the characters of Rhett and Summer. So I gave this like a 2 out of 5 for spice. So, I said, I will say I feel like this was a weak first installment into the series. I honestly think the author should have started with Kate's story first. I didn't like Rhett. I thought he was a dick and overly cocky. And it took me a while for me to start to like the guy. He's definitely not on my list for favorite men, though. I thought he made some really stupid decisions, and he seemed almost suicidal. As like he needed to prove something, and ultimately made him look like a total idiot. He had damage to his shoulder because the guy's a bull rider that never fully healed. Possible broken ribs, that's due to another injury falling off the fucking bull. And he was willing to go on a bull, even with his ribs hurting, for a stupid buckle. So I said, thankfully he smartened up and got off the, bull before he went out of the, pen area. Because they have, obviously, I've seen enough bull riding stuff to know, they have them behind, this pen area where the guy sits down, and gets them ready. And then they open up, this gate area and they start to, go around. I hate the sport of bull riding. I think it's a dumb sport. No offense if you live in a state or an area where bull riding is, the popular thing. No offense, but I think it's a dumbass sport. You piss off this fucking bull so you can ride it for as long as you can. It is so dumb. It is just a dumb sport to me. I don't like it at all. And so Summer, on the other hand, I felt like was a weak heroine. I didn't like her at all. She was the product of an affair. And yes, that is not her fault. She never asked to be born. But her constantly trying to get her dad's approval when he defied his wife and raised his by-blow in the same house as his wife and older child. He raised the girl in the house with the wife and the child. I can understand why his wife was bitter because he cheated. So I can understand. But I don't think it's right to take it out on the child. The child didn't ask to be born. And so it was kind of like she's the wicked stepmother. I thought that was kind of fucked up. Especially because the dad, it's like, dude, you should have kept your winkus in your pantsus because you just ruined your whole daughter's life. You ruined your older daughter's life. Now you ruined the younger daughter's life because you couldn't keep your dick in your pants. So, yeah, I really did not like her dad, He seemed like a charming guy, but I just didn't like him because it's like you chose to have an affair on your wife and then had this affair and then got the woman pregnant and then decided to raise the kid, It's fucked up, man. And so I really didn't like Summer. And so I said I felt bad for her, that, she was treated badly. But Summer to me was a one-dimensional and shallow character in my eyes. She lacked any great depth to her. She started to get a backbone towards the end of the book, but by then I already had my mind made up of her. So it was just both characters I really just wasn't a fan of. I just really didn't like either one of them. So I said I hate the sport of bull riding. This is what I already said. I'm not some PETA activist, but I think it's really really stupid sport. I said, hey, let's piss off this bull and ride on his back for as long as we can. I said, no offense to anyone who rides bulls for a living, but you have a death wish. You do. I said, it's the same thing as people riding at top speed next to other cars at top speed in a circle. I don't like NASCAR either. I think it's a dumb sport. It's just, they're dumb sports. They're dumb. They're extremely dangerous. Football's dangerous too. So many people end up with like concussions and all kinds of stuff. I'm not really into contact sports. I really just not a fan of it because it's very rough. You fuck up yourself, like, you know, especially like anything where you get hit in the head a lot, it really messes you up. Now, anybody, they take their chances, obviously. Anybody who gets into a sport, professional or otherwise, you always take your chances, you know, obviously. So, I mean, I don't want to ban the sport. I just don't watch it, you know, because I think it's stupid. So, I ended up just giving this a 3 because I wasn't a fan of either one of the characters. You know, I thought he was a bit too cocky for himself. Like, obviously he gets what they call buckle bunnies, and it's like, to me, it's like, it just shows that there are a lot of women out there who are looking for a quick meal ticket, you know? So they go and they try to hook up with like this professional athlete, whether it's basketball, you know. Take the case of, there's a woman out there called Brittany Renner. Look her up. She's very famous for sleeping with a basketball player and deliberately getting knocked up so she can get child support. She's a piece of shit. So there are plenty of women out there who are buckle bunnies or hoop bunnies or whatever you call them, like groupies that hang at these areas so they can hook up with sports guys. Now, I will tell the sports guys, don't be dumb and don't use a condom that comes from the chick. Use your own protection. But there are football players, dumb football and basketball players, that have how many kids with how many different women. So not only does I look at that and I'm like, that's messed up. How do you have how many kids? How do you see them all? You know, first of all, how do you see all these kids? You know, how do you spend all this time with these kids? You know, and then, you know, these girls who are basically hoochies go out and like, oh, let's get myself pregnant so I have like 18 years of child support. And I'm like, the parents that are teaching their daughters to do this, shameful. Absolutely shameful. You should be ashamed of yourselves teaching your daughters that. Teach them to be independent and take care of themselves, you know? Not be baby makers. So, with him, Rhett, he was typical. You know, he was one of those typical guys where he's like, oh, I'm getting tired of, like, screwing all these chicks, you know, kind of thing. And then Summer comes along, and I just didn't feel like she was anything special. It's I didn't feel like she was special enough to where he would like her, you know? Especially when he had, like, all these chicks, like, hitting on him and stuff like that. You know, I just didn't feel it. I didn't feel it. So I ended up giving it a 3. The second book, as I said, Heartless, I think that's the second book. I love that one. I love the book. This first one, on the other hand, not a fan. So, I honestly keep torturing myself and hoping I like this author. I keep giving this author chance after chance after chance, and then she disappoints me. So, I ended up reading Tempt by Melanie Harlow. This is book number 9 for Cloverleaf Farms. I think it's like the next generation. So we've got the characters of Millie and Zach. So I gave this like a 3 out of 5. So the trope is an age gap. All this author does is age gap romances. That's all I've read in every one of her books. Every book I've picked up from her has always been age gaps. And I'm like, she's a one-trick pony of authors. That's the only thing she knows how to do. So he's 47. So he's pretty, pretty old. Not that 47 is old, he's older, you know, seasoned. He's a seasoned gentleman. And she's 31. So I said, I'm done with this author. I've tried giving her chance after chance, and she's a one-trick pony and keeps the same trope over and over again. So the story was okay. I didn't like the back and forth between the characters, and Zach seemed younger than he was. So maybe it's because he never raised his son. So Zach is... what is he again? He's like former military, and I think he works at like some kind of thing where he does like security or something like that. And he ends up meeting Millie at this bar. Was it at a motel, I think? I think it might have been at a motel. So they meet at the bar. He's instantly attracted to her. She's instantly attracted to him. They get it on, and come to find out, he has a son that he never knew he had, you know. So he ends up getting to know his son. His son's like, hey, I want you to come to my wedding. I'm getting married. So he's like, okay, try to form some kind of bond with his son that he never knew. And who is the wedding planner but Millie? And Millie is his son, Zach's son, the ex-girlfriend. So it seems like Millie is the type where she is like one of those ones where I think I highlighted it. I think that was one of my highlights, and I'm like, same girl, same. This is why I had to stop doing stuff. So it says, no, I admitted he's cute, but he was too young for me. I didn't think the 4-year age gap would matter that much, but after a few weeks, I knew it was never going to work. And so the one's like, you knew after a few weeks? You dated Mason for months. So she says, I know, but the spark wore off fast. Our relationship was strictly platonic at the end. Why didn't you break it off sooner? Because I felt sorry for him. His mom had recently died. His stepdad was out of the picture. He never knew his real father. He seemed so vulnerable when he laughed. This is your problem. You date lost puppies. I thought that was funny because I was like, same girl. I used to do that, where I used to date these guys who were like lost puppies. And like, oh, I can fix him. And it's like, I've learned by now, no, you cannot fix this person. This person needs to be fixed. Do not date this person. They need to fix themselves. Self-reflection, all that stuff. So I had to learn after dating how many guys that I was like, you know what? I have a type and I need to stop going for that type, where it's like these guys are lost puppies and I'm trying to help them. Because I end up like, where I'm like, I like them, and you get intimate with them, but you don't, like, I never fell for any of these guys. I never fell in love with any of these guys. I like them, I enjoyed the company at the time, but I wasn't feeling anything else for them, So, like, I feel like if any of them asked me to marry them, I would have been like, no. So, yeah, I had to break that cycle. And date somebody that I didn't think of as a lost puppy, and then that person ended up turning it out to be my husband. So there you go. So I think for me, when I changed my type, when I changed, stopped dating the same guys, that relationship worked. So I feel like, obviously the Millie, who is Winnie, was the other sister in the other story. They were both sisters and they were talking. So Millie was kind of the same way, where she had to change her type and she ended up falling for Zach. And it didn't work for me because it was kind of like the back and forth between each other, like not knowing if they want to be together or not. I really just didn't like that. And like they kept like, oh, well, we have to tell your son. And it's like, what's the big deal? The dude's fucking married to some other chick. Why would he have a problem? I don't see why he'd have a problem, So I didn't like that aspect to it. So like they're keeping it a secret from his son. I thought that was kind of stupid. And then, like I said, Zach felt very young to me. He did not come off as like 47. He felt like in his 20s or 30s. Just felt younger to me. And so I'm like, maybe it's because he never like grew up with his son. He never raised his son. His son is an adult now, so he doesn't need to be raised and all that stuff. So that could be maybe one reason why Zach was so immature. He never had to grow up, you know, because he never had any responsibility of taking care of a baby and all that stuff. Usually, like, when you become a father, become a mother, it kind of like grows you up a little bit to where you have to be more mature. You have to realize that now you're taking care of another human. So that could be the reason why he felt immature to me. But still, I just was not a fan of that book. And I just keep giving the author chance after chance. And she's just a one-trick pony for me. So I'm just like... So the next book I ended up reading was Death Adder. Now this is Naga Brides #4 by Naomi Lucas. I keep giving this author a chance. Most of her books are like 3s for me. They're decent. There's things I don't like about them, but the storyline, I would say like the world building, I really like. I really like that post-apocalyptic. I realized I have a type. I love post-apocalyptic stories. I don't know why, but I do. I love those post-apocalyptic stories. So this one here this is like Earth. How many years have gone by? You have like humans that have landed back on Earth because they were out in space, obviously other worlds and all that stuff. And they're trying to see like if Earth is like inhabitable again. And so they end up coming across these Nagas, which are basically like hybrids. They're like human snake hybrids, where they got like a slithering snake down below, and up above they look more human. Some of the like adders, like I think him and stuff like that, ones that look like a cobra and stuff like that, they kind of have like a little bit more of their head is a little shaped a little bit differently. So this one here, the Death Adders are supposed to be more of the more aggressive snake hybrids. So they have been getting killed off. Well, he's a little different because he didn't grow up. He kind of left his like clan area, his group of Death Adders. He left them for a long time. So he didn't like kind of grow up in that type of mentality. So it makes him a little bit different. So we have these characters as Celeste and Zalax, I don't know. But I gave this like a 3 out of 5. So this was like a 3.5 for me. It was almost a 4. But it had a little things that I just kind of like, I just wasn't a fan of. So I said, most of the series has been an okay reading experience, but I keep reading these books because the story is interesting. I love the world building and of this post-apocalyptic world. And the more the series progresses, the more interesting this world is and these Naga men. I really just think it's a really interesting world, and that's why I like this series. But I will say, like, as couples go, I'm not really a fan of some of the couples, like, especially some of the men. They're just really aggressive to me. And it's maybe because they're snakes and all that stuff. But I'm not really a fan of all of them. I have to, like, go back and reread some of them again. Especially there was one, I think he was, like, bluish or something. This one here... they all have all different colors. Like one's like more red in tone. This one here is like, I think more black in tone, but I think might have like purple aspects to him. I'm not sure. But I said it dragged in places for me, and I'm not always a fan of the men and how they treat the women, but I did like Celeste, and I felt like she reminded me a bit of like Ellen Ripley from Aliens, from like the Alien franchise. I felt like I really felt like she was like Ellen Ripley, because she was like a commander. She was like the one in charge of like everybody, very smart, had like a really good head on her shoulders. And she also was the type where she didn't want to leave a man behind kind of thing. She wanted to like, let's finish this job. Let's do this. And so she ends up running into Zalaex. So I thought he was an interesting character, though there were times he frustrated me when it came to Celeste. I said, where she showed some really strong female heroine vibes. And I liked the fact that she was flawed and she showed her vulnerability in certain situations. But he was very like, and I guess you could say like, when it comes to these men, these half hybrid breeds and all that stuff, when it comes to these men, obviously they've just seen like Naga women, you know, like half-breed alien snake women, and they haven't seen them in years. So it's like you see like this human on the planet, and it's all of a sudden they're starting to like smell like the pheromones and all that stuff. So it's kind of making these snakes kind of crazed, you know, because they want to mate with these women. And so it's kind of making them very like territorial and really possessive. And I do like possessive men in books, but when it becomes overly possessive, I'm like, dude, chill. Calm down. So there are times like the Naga men can get a little overly possessive. Maybe it's because of them being snakes and all that stuff, you know, hybrid snakes. But sometimes they kind of bother me, you know. They bother me a little bit when it comes to certain situations and stuff. And I'm just like, whoa, chill. Calm down. But I liked her. I really did like her. And yeah, he was a detriment to her when it came to a few situations. And I was like, dude, you need to calm down. Calm down. Learn to control your urges, and the whole mind thing. Learn to control that, because you are a detriment to her. And like I said, I keep reading these because I find the story fascinating. I find the whole world building fascinating, but not all the books hit it for me. Like the first book I liked, and then all the rest of them have kind of been like threes for me. I'm hoping the next book in the series will be better. And like I said, I have to like reread the other ones again and see if maybe rereading the second and the third and all that stuff, because this one here is the fourth one. Reading the second one and third one again, maybe if I reread those ones again, it might change my ratings maybe. I don't know. I have to reread them again. Because like I said, I do like this world. It is an interesting world. I mean, we're on planet Earth, but I mean, this is like devastation where it's like a lot of stuff is like dirt now. Things have been like overgrown and all that stuff, you know, now that there's no people there to kind of keep, you know, obviously to keep the city maintained and all that stuff. So one of the Naga men actually lives in one of these like houses and stuff like that. So it's a really interesting world. I really like the world. But it's the men that bother me sometimes, where it's like they're too possessive and too mind thing, you know, that it just kind of bothers me. Where with like, say, Ruby Dixon, most of the men that are in all of her series, most of them are cinnamon rolls. They're sweethearts. They take their time with the women, all that stuff. That's the thing I love about Ruby Dixon's books, is that most of the men, I have run across a few of them that were kind of jackasses. And I will say some of them were jackasses and they did some really stupid shit. But most of them, when it comes to their ladies and like, this is my mate, this is the one I want to be with. And when it comes to like the Ice Planet Barbarians, you know, obviously they have the Quee, so the Quee kind of speaks for them. But I think that's what I like about Ruby Dixon, is most of the guys are cinnamon roll sweethearts. To where these Naga men are more, if you're more into like the jealous, possessive type, I mean really possessive type, you probably would like these men in this world. But if you're not like into the jealous and possessive, and you think, you know, guys like that are just like too creepy, too possessive, you probably won't like this series, because like I said, it's the world building that keeps me intrigued with the story and keeps me wanting to read the books. And I will read the next one, but like I said, it's the men that kind of like, you know, kind of like, whoa, kind of like, hold back, wait a minute, slow down, you know. So sometimes they get a little bit too much, and I'm just like, calm down. So the next one is another 3-star. So this one here, I ended up reading Funny Feelings by Tara DeWitt. Now, so this is the characters of Farley and Meyer, I want to say. It could be Mayer, but I'm saying Meyer. So I gave this a 1 out of 5. I really wanted to love this, but most of this book bored me, unfortunately. I said there were some really sweet moments in this book, but between me being bored throughout this story, the third act breakup was lame, and I wish that Meyer's daughter was a little bit more present in this. There were times I felt like she was put in scenes as a set piece. I said there was some anxiety representation in this story that I thought was nice. I really liked Meyer as a character, but I did feel like Farley was a bit lacking to me. Also, I didn't find her comedy funny. Now, she is an up-and-coming comedian, and she's almost at the brink of stardom. Meyer, on the other hand, he used to be a comedian, and he had like a more, I'd say probably like a one-night stand that led in pregnancy, and the woman who he knocked up, she ended up dying in childbirth. Now, he obviously has been a single dad for a while. He's been raising his daughter. His daughter is deaf. And I like the representation in here of her being deaf. I thought it was really well done. And I like I said, I really liked him, but I really just didn't care about her like storyline of like her comedy and all that stuff. She really kind of like, she frustrated me in a way. Also, like I said, I didn't really find her comedy funny, and there were just things that kind of rubbed me the wrong way when it came to her, even though I liked her relationship with Meyer and the little girl. I thought she did really good with the little girl. I love their relationship, but I just really didn't care about the whole, like, her, you know, being a comedian, and then he was her manager, and they've been friends for, like, you know, a few years, and so they always obviously were attracted to each other, but nothing ever came of it. And then the whole storyline of, like, they have to do a fake dating thing because it will help her career, I thought that was really stupid, especially in today's time. Why would you need, if we're strong, independent females that don't need no man, why would you fake a fiance or boyfriend in order to get up there in the comedy circuit? It didn't make any sense to me. Like I said, especially in today's time where it's like women are always saying to other women, you don't need a man, be your own man kind of thing, be your own money, you know, do your own thing, be independent. Why would she need a man to help her, you know, make her career better? I don't know. That's just me. But that's what I felt like. I was kind of like, And most of the story was boring to me. There was another person I thought, like, really, that had did, like, they put it as a 2. Like I said, I wouldn't put it as a 2. I'd put it as a 3. It was decent. I liked what they had said in their review. So this person, I'll put it up, like, right over here. So she said, I don't think this was a bad book, and I actually feel kind of bad giving it such a low rating, because I feel like a lot of people would swoon hard and absolutely love it. But unfortunately, I was extremely bored the entire time I read it and couldn't wait for it to be over. Same here. I said, don't get me wrong, it was super cute and sweet, but I didn't realize going into this book that it would be a dual timeline, which I'm never a fan of. Same here. It was a dual timeline where it go from past to present, and it annoyed me because I was like, wait a minute. Okay, we're in the past. Okay, now we're in the present. There were times it confused me. It really confused me. with multiple missed chances and years of both of them secretly pining for each other, only to be followed up by fake dating, which finally gives them the opportunity to act how they both always wanted to. I think I was expecting more of an unrequited love situation with a fake dating sort of thing that would have resulted in a bunch of laugh out loud funny moments because she's a comedian, but I didn't find the book funny at all. And the overall vibes were nothing like I was expecting it to be. Same. It totally could be my current mood because I've been having a really shitty reading month and I'm in somewhat of a slump, or it could have been the book. Maybe it wasn't my type of humor. I don't know, but either way, I found myself super bored and putting it down so many times. I felt like just DNFing it, even though I didn't have a particular reason to, because there wasn't actually anything specific that was bothering me. I just wasn't into it. I agree with her review. I definitely agree with it. I wouldn't put it as a 2, but I mean, I gave it a 3 just to be nice. But that's pretty much how I felt. I was just like, it bored me. And I don't know. I think I was expecting more from it, I think. But it just was still kind of like meh to me. I mean, I think other people probably would enjoy it. I think it was probably just a me problem. But I think probably there might be other people who would be like, oh, I really love this and all that stuff. But I did feel like most of the book bored me. When it came to like them dating, like fake dating and them hanging out, I like those scenes. But when it came to like her doing comedy and all this other stuff, I didn't give a crap. I just didn't care, you know? So I wanted to like skim over all that stuff and just kind of stay focused on their, you know, relationship. So the next one, I gave this 5 stars. You know, 5 stars out of all these duds. But Claire Kent is a favorite of mine that I have really liked in 2022, and now I'm 2023, you know, liking this one. So this one was Hero. This is Kindled book number 4. So we've got Zed and Esther. So I gave this a 4 out of 5 when it comes to spice. So this is a stepfather's younger brother. Slight age gap, post-apocalyptic. So I said, when we open up with this book, Esther is a teen, and it's been a year since an asteroid hit Earth. She's in college, so she's probably like around 17, 18 at the time. Her mother, stepfather, step-uncle, and his pregnant girlfriend and their grandparents were all living in a 1-bedroom cabin trying to survive. So Esther and Zed don't really care for each other. He is a bit of a flake that doesn't take life too seriously, where with Esther, she takes life too seriously, and she lives with a lot of anxiety. I said she overthinks a lot, and I totally get her because I'm the same way. I overthink a lot. Also, he constantly teases her, and she hates it. So I said her mother and stepfather got married when Esther was 15 and Zed was 22. So they're very similar in age, but, you know, obviously there's like an 8-year age gap. Yeah, 7, 8, you know. So the story quickly goes from them having how many family in a 1-bedroom cabin to 6 years later, and all of their family has died. So Esther's alone with Zed and his 5-year-old daughter named Katrina. They call her Rena for short. I said, even though Esther still doesn't care for Zed, she starts to form an attraction to him without her liking it. So that things kind of go from there. This kind of reminded me of the first book. The first book was Last Light, and you have these characters that don't really care for each other. And then it's like they form this bond with each other, and over time they start to develop these feelings for each other. Very similar. Like a lot of them have very similar vibes. Like Last Light, it was kind of the same thing where there was an age gap. And then even like the first book in the series had the same similar vibes, because that's the one thing I could say about this author is that a lot of these characters, it's very similar vibes where you probably would have never dated this person in real life if things like this didn't happen, but you're kind of forced into situations with people maybe you would have never interacted with, and it causes you to reflect and realize that even though you don't you would have never thought of this person, but when you're put in these situations, it makes you reevaluate your thinking and realize that, wow, I actually am attracted to this person I would have never thought I would be attracted to. So I've had that in a couple of instances where it's like I would have never probably dated somebody or given them a chance, but then I decided to give them a chance. And you know, you start to like, the more you're around this person and their personality, the more you like them. So I said I really enjoyed this book. I really identified with Esther because she was brave, she was smart, she was strong-willed. She wanted to keep her family she formed with Zed and Rena safe. Like, she really developed this really great bond with Rena. Rena thought of her as like a mom because she lost her mother when she was really little. I think the mother died when she was like 1. So she has no memories of her mom. You know, you really start to develop memories around 5 or so. That's when you can kind of like keep those memories in your head, because it's like that with me. Like when I look back at like memories when I was a child, I don't think I remember anything. I don't think I remember anything past 5, you know, like anything under the age of 5. I think 5 and up I have memories. But like I remember certain Christmases and stuff like that of me getting a lot of toys and things like that when I was really little. And I remember like cartoons I used to watch and eating cereal at the TV on Saturday mornings, eating my cereal, my Lucky Charms while watching my Saturday morning cartoons and stuff like that, you know. And I remember I have those memories. So I was about 5 or so when I had, you know, that time period. So anything more than that, like it is rare for you to remember anything at like 1 or 2. Very rare for you to have memories like that. So for her, of course, Rena doesn't remember her mom. Her mom died when she was too young. So Esther and Rena really formed this bond with each other. And I think part of the reason why Zed started to develop feelings for Rena is because he saw her, you know, how she acted around his daughter. So you can kind of like develop feelings for somebody when you see their treatment of your children. So I think that's part of the reason why he ended up falling for her. He even said, like, when she was a teenager, he didn't think of her that way. You know, he's like, don't think I thought of you that way. He's like, I didn't, you know, he goes, I just wanted to tease you and he wanted her to get outside her like comfort zone because she was very straight-laced and she wanted to be an astronaut before like an asteroid hit Earth and all that stuff. She wanted to be an astronaut. She wanted to be, you know, go out into the stars and stuff. Very smart person, very smart, very self-reliant. I really liked her character a lot. She was very brave. You know, like for me, it's like I almost thought they could have, the author could have named the story Brave, and had her be the one who was, you know, the title was her. Because there was a scene in the book where she showed her bravery, and I really, really liked that. And I like a good, strong female heroine, and I definitely felt that in here. But also, and like I said, this is something that I love to see with heroines. Yes, she's a strong female heroine, but she also shows her vulnerability. We all have vulnerability. So with her, definitely felt that with her. Really liked her character. And with him, some of the men in the other books have kind of like been a little bit of a block of wood. They've been more of like emotionally constipated. But with him, you could see he did have feelings for her. Like when that scene came up, and I'm not going to explain what happened. You have to read it for yourself. But when the scene came up, he was starting to like get emotional. And I'm like, thank you. I appreciate an author that shows the male's vulnerability as well, without him looking weak. That's the thing I always look at, is I want a strong male character as well. But I don't want the author to make him look weak in order to make the heroine look strong. And I did not feel that in this book at all. That's why I ended up giving this 5 stars, because it was really good. And them finding these connections with these other people, especially living in that world. You have to worry about like these roving gangs and other people who want to rob you and steal your food and do other terrible things to you. But I just liked that they needed help. They needed to have other people with them. They could not do this by themselves. So they had to admit that they could not keep on by themselves, and they had to search for other people and help, Really good. I really enjoyed this one. I really, really, really enjoyed this one a lot. And it was just, yeah, this one here, the author had titled the book already, and she was planning to have 2 other characters in the book, but she wasn't feeling the characters at the time, which I can understand. You want to write what you feel, otherwise it's not going to be good. So I could see why she couldn't change the title, but she could have made this book the title Brave. But Hero definitely applies to Celeste. That was her name, right? Esther, yeah. Definitely applies to Esther. Definitely applies to her. I will say, like, 2 books that I've read so far had some really strong females, and I really enjoyed that. Okay, I am going to talk about this last book, because otherwise this is going to be way too long, and I don't want this review to be an hour, so there you go. So I ended up reading I Married a Naga by Regine Abel. This is another book that BookTube had recommended. Several people had recommended this series, and I just don't feel it. I don't feel it. I don't care for the world building, and I really felt like this character, his name was Zorro. I felt like he bent over backwards to accommodate Serena. Now, Serena is like this, I don't know, I wouldn't say bounty hunter, but it's like, she's like a hunter. She goes and she hunts these different things down to kill them, and it's in, like, obviously in his world, and she ends up going into this area that you're not supposed to go in, that the natives are there. And so in order to save her, Zorro decides to marry her to save her from getting killed. And so for me, it was like he was bending over backwards for her to accommodate her. And I was like, I don't know. It's like when you're in a situation and you're around people who are different than you, but different, people, creatures, you have to learn to be uncomfortable in certain situations, because not everybody's going to bend over backwards to accommodate you, and that's kind of like how I felt like with him, where it's like they were so different that it's like, oh, well, he was doing all this stuff to make things more comfortable for her, but I was like, well, what are you doing to show that you're a good bride for him and all that stuff? Now, she went into the marriage and like, oh, well, I'll just stay for 6 months, act like I like him, that stuff. And then, when it looks like the marriage doesn't work out, I'll split. I thought that was kind of a shitty thing to kind of do to somebody, is even if he said he's in agreement of that, I still find that to be in bad taste, because this person is doing all of these things to accommodate you and help you, and you're not doing like the same accommodation in return. I felt like it was very one-sided. Very one-sided, where he's helping her and doing all this stuff, and she's not doing anything to help him, you know? Especially because it's like his parents like had told her like, hey, he was very sought after. He had a lot of women who were, you know, wanting to be his mate. And then you come along and, you know, he marries you to help you out, and you're not really doing anything to show that you want to be with him, that you actually want to be with him. And so I'm like, I kind of can understand the frustration between his parents. I can understand that, you know. It's like you want to be with somebody that, you know, why would you want to be married to somebody who embarrasses you and doesn't like help you? It's the whole point of marriage is that you're helpmates, you help each other out, you know, you help with each other's strengths and weaknesses, things like that. And I felt like it was very one-sided when it came to her. She had all of her needs met. Meanwhile, I felt like he needed to have his needs met as well, and she needed to deal with like some uncomfortable situations. So it ended up where I just didn't like the story, you know, where I was like, man, all this stuff that he's doing for her, that I was like, he's going like far and beyond what he should be doing at that point. And I was like, well, what are you doing, honey? You know, I'm like, what are you doing? So yeah, I ended up not liking it. And I think for me, what I decided I'm going to do for the rest of this year, besides reading other books that I have on my TBR that I've been wanting to get to, I'm going to not take recommendations from other booktubers for the rest of this year, or at least try to. There's only a couple that I would say I mesh really well with, that I would say, oh, I'll definitely take recommendations from those channels, because a lot of the books that they end up liking, I like. But there's other channels that I watch that I like their personalities and I like watching them, but we don't mesh well with some of our books. Like what one person really loved and gave a 5-star, I was like, you know? So I think for me, instead of being disappointed by all of these books that other people, like there's other booktubers out there that, you know, they're like, oh, I really like this book. And then how many of these other booktubers are like, oh, I really like this book too. And I'm like, I didn't like it, you know? So it just really, it really like makes me look more of an outsider in this community, where I'm like, yeah, I didn't like that, you know? So for me right now, I'd rather go and try to find books myself, like I was doing before, you know, before BookTube. You know, how was I finding books? I was getting either recommendations from, you know, like Facebook groups and stuff like that, you know, like romance Facebook groups, or I was going on Amazon and typing in what I was looking for when it came to like a trope. Like, oh, I want to read small town romances. Okay, let me find how many small town romances. Oh, I want to read post-apocalyptic stories. Okay, let's go look for post-apocalyptic stories. So I'd rather do that for the rest of the year, try to find stuff on my own, rather than listen to booktubers' recommendations and end up not liking what I'm reading. So yeah, I figured I would do that and go from there. But yeah, anyways, that's it for this video here. Have yourself a good day. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other. And I will see you all on the next video. All right. Bye.